next talk. So the next talk is by Quentin Cormier. Sorry?
I said good. Nice to see.
Next talk is by Quentin Cormier, Oscillations in a Mean Field Model of Spiking Neurons, and Quentin is from INRIA, Sophia Antipolis in the south of France. So I have to. You should be able to share your screen, Quentin, no?
Yes.
Okay. The microphone is yours.
All right. Do you see my my slides?
Yes.
So first of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present this work. So I'm going to talk about mean field model of interacting neurons. So as Eva mentioned it, this is the same model than in the previous talk. And I will focus on oscillations, so spontaneous oscillations for this networks of neurons. So we consider networks of integrate and fire neurons, which are interacting each others, and under suitable assumptions on the interactions, as the number of neurons goes to infinity, we have mean field descriptions, which take the form of Makhnin-Vlasov stochastic differential equations. And the questions I was interested in is to understand the long-time behavior of this Makhnin-Vlasov equation, of this mean field description. And we try to take a dynamical system point of view. So we wonder what are the invariant probability measures in the same way that for ODEs, we look at equilibrium points. And we want to decide if these invariant probability measures are stable, so either global or locally stable. So the main motivation of these questions is the study of metastability, as Eva described it, because locally, at least locally stable invariant probability measure of the Makhnin-Vlasov equations are a good candidate to be metastable state of the finite number networks. And the second motivation is the study of spontaneous oscillations in these networks. So we will look at an invariant probability measure which is not locally stable, and we will see that under suitable assumptions we can prove the existence of oscillations, so of bifurcations of the mean field limit. So the questions we want to answer here is for which parameters the networks exhibit spontaneous oscillations, at which frequencies those oscillations appears, and what can we say about the solution. So I will start by recalling the particle system and explain how we can get the limit, the mean field limit. So then I will talk about the invariant probability measure on the case of weak interactions. So when the interactions between the neurons are weak enough, we have a general result, which is a uniqueness of the invariant probability measure and convergence to it. For stronger interactions, however, this is more complicated, and we have a local, so we will look at local stability. And then I will talk about the main point, which is the existence of periodic solutions near a Hopf bifurcation. And I will conclude with an illustrative example for which we can, so this is a toy model for which we can compute almost everything. So the model is the following. So we consider capital N neurons, which are characterized by their membrane potential, Vi of t, which lives on R+. And there are going to be spikes, but between the spikes, the dynamics is very straightforward because each neuron solves the ODE v dot equal B of V. And then each neuron spikes randomly at a rate which depends on its potential. So that means that the probability that neuron I spikes between t and t plus delta t, knowing all the past, is equal to f of the I of t times dt. So if you think f to be a non-decreasing function, that means that the higher the potential is, higher the chance to spike is. So then when a neuron spikes, so say the neuron I spike at time tau, then potential is reset to 0. And at the same time, the other neurons receive an increase of their potential by these synaptic weights. So when there is a spike, instantaneously the potential is reset to 0, and the other neurons they receive an increase in their potential, which is given by the synaptic weights between the two neurons. So, for instance, this is an illustration with two neurons. So we have, so in abscissa, this is time. Here, this is the membrane potential. So we have the blue neuron and the red neuron, and you see that at first, each one is living its life independently from the others, solving the ODE v dot equal B of V. And then at some point, the blue neuron is spiking, so its potential is reset to 0. And at the exact same time, the red neuron is receiving a small kick, which is given by the size of the interactions, and then it continues. So to summarize, the model is parameterized by the following. So we have the drift B, which is a function from R plus to R, and it gives the dynamics of the neuron between the spikes. And we assume that bit 0 is strictly positive, such that the dynamics stay on R plus, because when a neuron is spiking, it's reset to 0, and then the drift B push you to the right. We have the rate function f, which is a function from R plus to R plus, and we assume that it is non-decreasing, so it encodes the probability for a neuron to spike at a given potential. We have the connectivity matrices and the law of the initial conditions. So we assume that at t equal to 0, all the neurons are identically distributed with an IID probability law nu. So, okay, so now I will take the limit n goes to infinity. So here I do a crude simplification. I assume that all the weights are equal to g divided by n for some deterministic constant g, which was h in the previous talk of Eva. So, 1 over n, this is the scaling of the law of large numbers. So as n goes to infinity, what we obtain is the following mean field equations. So Vt is a membrane potential of a typical neuron in the system. And so it solves, between the jumps, it solves V dot equal B of Vt plus G time expectation of f of Vt. And Vt jumps to 0 at rate f of Vt. So this is this system we want to study, and we want to understand the long time behavior. And of course, the difficulty comes from the blue term here, which is a mean field current, because it depends it depends on the law of Vt. So this is a Makin-Blasov equation. So yes, so this model it has been considered by many authors in the past. I can mention the work of Nicolas Fournier and Eva Lochserbar, which has results on the long time behavior for B equal to 0. So B equal to 0, it means that the potential stay constant between the jumps. There is also the numerical work of Drogoul and Romain, which So they show in a closed setting that there can be oscillation, spontaneous oscillation via up bifurcations. And finally, there is a recent work of Eva and Pierre Montmarché that Eva just presented. So they obtain very deep results for the specific shape of F and B. So what are the first question is, what are the invariant probability measure of the nonlinear process? So fix a constant alpha positive and consider y alpha of t the following Markov process. So this is V is y alpha of t. This is a membrane potential of an isolated neuron subject to a constant current equal to alpha. So this is a Markov process, and we can show that it has a unique invariant probability measure, which is given by this formula. So you see it depends on B, F, and alpha. Gamma of alpha here is a normalizing constant such that it is a probability measure. And we can show that the mean jump rate per unit of time under this invariant probability measure is equal to gamma of alpha. And then the question is, what are the invariant, so to answer what are the invariant probability measure of the nonlinear process, those are the new infinite alpha such that alpha satisfies the closure equation alpha equals g times the mean jump rate, which is gamma of alpha. So the invariant probability measure of the mean field equations, those are this set of measures, which is not necessarily unique. So, however, we have this result for small interactions. So, if the parameter g is small enough, which means that there is a constant g star which depends on b and f, such that for all g smaller than g star, the process, the nonlinear process, has a unique invariant probability measure, which is globally stable, and the convergence to it happens at an exponential rate. And this is obtained by the proof involves a perturbation of the case where g equal to 0. So now, what happens when g is not very small? Well, I will discuss that with two examples. So the first one, we take b of x equal 0.1 minus x and f of x equal x2. So I recall that the invariant probability measures are given by this formula. So what we can do is we plot alpha divided by gamma of alpha as a function of alpha. And if we do that with this example, we obtain this curve. And the conclusion is that there exists two constants g1 here and g2 here, such that for g smaller than g1 or g greater than g2, we have a unique invariant probability measure. But if g is between g1 and g2, we have three invariant probability measures. And numerically, we find that the middle one is unstable, while the two others are locally stable. So another interesting example is the following. We take b of x equal 2 minus 2x and f of x equal x to the power 10. So x to the power 10, this is something crude, such that when x is greater than 1, this is very big. And when x is smaller than 1, this is very small. So we can do the same, but this time there is exactly always one invariant probability measure, whatever the value of g. But if g is between those two values, what we see numerically is spontaneous oscillations. And this suggests that there is up bifurcations for some parameter of g, which is here 0.7. So for instance, this is a simulation with g equals 0.8. In abscissa, this is time. And you see that, so each dot is a spike of a neuron, and you see that the network synchronized. So I will now talk about local stability of an invariant probability measure. So for that, we need to define a distance on a probability measure. And here, this is the total variation distance with weight 1 plus f squared. And we say that nu infini alpha, an invariant probability measure of the nonlinear equation, is locally stable at rate lambda if, starting from any probability measure nu close enough to nu infini alpha, the nonlinear current converge to the good values at an exponential rate. And now the result is the following. We can characterize completely the stability of an invariant probability measure nu infini alpha. For that, we need to define this function theta of t, which is obtained by integrating against the nu infini alpha the following function. So d divided by dx of rx alpha of t, and rx alpha of t, this is the jump rate of an isolated neuron which receive a constant current equal to alpha and which start at potential x at time t equal to 0. So at t equal to 0, we start from x, and then we look at the mean jump rate at time t. And we take the derivative with respect to x, and we form this function. And then we can prove that the stability is given by the Laplace transform of theta. So when those zeros are those solutions, if the complex solutions of these equations are all located on the left half plane, we have stability. So in other words, the stability is given by the location of the roots of an holomorphic function. And this result is interesting because the function theta of t, it is only given by an isolated neuron. It is given by the Markov process y alpha of t. So there is no longer Makin-Vlasov process. And we can prove that this criteria is satisfied if f plus b prime is positive. So if f plus b prime is positive, we can prove that any invariant probability measure has to be locally stable. So now I can talk about periodic solutions. So I come back to my example b of x equal 2 minus 2x and f of x equal x to the power 10. And we compute the zeros of the functions which give the stability. So we have algorithm for that. And so if g is equal to 0.5, all the roots are have a negative real parts, so we have stability. But then if we increase g, at some point, we have a pair of imaginary zeros. And so we can no longer decide if it's stable or not with the last theorem. And if g is increased even more, you see that the zero crosses the imaginary axis. And so here is a more complex pictures where we so in abscissa this is the value of the interaction coefficient g. And for each value of g, we report the mean number of the mean number of spikes or the nonlinear current. And the black curves, it corresponds to the invariant probability measure. So when it's dot, it means that it's unstable because here and here we have two up bifurcations. And if g is between those two values, we have a periodic orbit. And we can compute, for each value of g, we can compute the maximum amplitude of this value and the minimum amplitude. And we find this curve. So now what we want to do is to zoom around one of these 2 points around off bifurcations and to prove the existence of periodic solution. So for that, we need some spectral assumptions. And if you are familiar with the classical theorem for Hopf bifurcation in a deterministic system, you will see that you will not be surprised by those assumptions. So we consider an invariant probability measure nu infini alpha 0. We assume that we have a pair of imaginary numbers. So alpha 0 is taken such that we are exactly at the Hopf bifurcations. We assume that those zeros are simple zeros of the holomorphic functions. We assume that those are the only zero on the imaginary axis. And finally, we assume that as alpha varies, those zeros crosses the imaginary axis with non-vanishing speed. So if I come back to the pictures here, you see that when alpha increases, here the zeros cross the imaginary axis with non-vanishing speed. And under those assumptions, the result is the following. So we have the existence of a curve of periodic solutions parameterized by V. So in other words, we have the existence of a family of densities nu V, of probability measure nu V, such that for each V, nu V is 2p tau V periodic, and this is the solution of the Makin-Vlasov equation. And what can we say? Yes, so when V equal to 0, the curve goes to the invariant probability measure nu infini alpha 0. Those periodic solutions are unique in the neighborhood of nu infini alpha 0, up, of course, to a translation, because if you have a solution and if you translate it, it's remain a periodic solution. And V is the amplitude of the first, yes, so V is the parameter of my family, but it is also the amplitude of the first harmonic of the solution. So if you want, V is the amplitude of the periodic solution. Okay, so now I will conclude with a simple example for which we can compute everything. So you take b of x equal m minus x and f of x equal 0 if x is between 0 and 1, and 1 over beta for x greater than 1. So we have a threshold effect, if you want. When the potential is less than 1, there is no spikes. And when the potential is greater than 1, there is spikes at rate 1 over beta. And what we can do is that if we do the correct change of variables, which is the following, then the equations which give the stability of an invariant probability measures, we can show that it is given by these explicit equations, which depends on delta, omega, and beta. And for this equation, we can do all the computations, and we can check all the spectral assumptions of the theorem. So, for instance, in this, we can compute all the Hopf bifurcations, and this is a parameterized curve, which it is a parameterization of all the Hopf bifurcations, all the imaginary roots. So you see that there are many Hopf bifurcations if you choose correctly the parameters. And what we can do is we can look at what happens when beta goes to 0. So this is the limit here. And when beta goes to 0, so we find the first Hopf bifurcations for this value of G0. And we can compute explicitly the period as a function of the parameter m and beta. Okay, so to conclude, we have studied the long-time behavior of Makin-Vlasov stochastic differential equations. When G is small, we have the general result, which is a relaxation to equilibrium. When G is larger, we need spectral conditions to study local stability. And then we can study the existence of periodic solutions near an unstable invariant probability measure that is Hopf bifurcation. If you are interested, you can look at the two papers on arXiv. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Quentin, for your talk. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll give you the opportunity to talk. Yes, oh, we have Abed. Can you speak, Abed? No.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I have a very, very simple question. Basically, so you talk about the invariance, and the invariance somewhat is related to your connectivity or to your J. So can you just give an intuition, like invariance with respect to what? Is it with respect just to the connectivity, just some intuition about that?
Yes. So what we mean by invariant probability measure, it means that this is invariant by time. So that means that if the population is taken under this invariant probability measure, then as time evolves, density does not change.
Eva, can you speak?
Yes.
Okay.
So my question, but I probably already asked that. What are you able to say if 0 is an equilibrium of the flow? So if B of 0 is 0, or just
yes, that's a good question. So if B0 equal to 0 for local stability, this is not really a problem. So because if you consider what I call the non-trivial invariant probability measure, which is the non-Dirac one, because I do everything locally in the neighborhood of the invariant the non-trivial invariant probability measure, this is not an issue that f of 0 equal to 0. However, when I was looking at global stability, this might be problematic because if you take, for instance, f of x equal x2 and b of x equal minus x, we can prove that for G large enough, no, sorry. Well, no, I'm not sure. This should work the same, I think. Yeah.
and for the oscillations, I mean for this.
For the oscillation, it's not a problem because again, it's locally around the invariant probability measure. The only problem is when you do some global stuff, I think.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see anything on the chat. Okay, well, thank you again, Quentin, for your talk.